some different strategies to use on your state test when you're writing. And if you're wondering why a 13-year-old is qualified to talk to you about this subject, then when I was 7, I published my first book called Flying Fingers, Master the Tools of Learning Through the Joy of Writing. And more recently, I published a second book called Dancing Fingers, which is a book of poetry that I co-authored with my sister. So I really love to write. And I know that one of the things that a lot of people ask me about is, well, you know, I like to write, but maybe sometimes when I'm doing these prompts on state tests, then it's really difficult. So what does your face look like when you think of prompts on tests or writing for a test? Are you happy? Are you a little bit frustrated, or maybe not looking forward to? What would you say your reaction would be?
Go ahead. I would be happy about it.
You'd be happy about it. Great. And I think that there's a lot of reason to be happy, because when you look at a prompt, it's pretty simple actually, the steps that you can take and how you start writing. So writing on a test, you know, it might get you a little bit nervous at first, but it's really, you know, nothing to be scared about. It's something to be happy about. So if your face looks like that, I know that was a little weird with the surprise face just coming up there, but I was going to say, your face doesn't have to look anything like that, because prompts don't have to be hard, and most of the time, they really aren't. All you have to do is...
Dora, you can take your time as well. We still have a full hour. They don't switch classes.
Oh, okay, that's perfect. Thanks so much. When you read the prompt, the first thing you want to do before you start pre-writing or brainstorming or any of that, you want to read the prompt. Look for keywords and think about the purpose of the prompt. So what do I mean when I say purpose here?
The main idea.
The main idea. Very good. So when you're looking about the purpose of the prompt, you're asking, well, what do they want me to do? What are they asking exactly? What is the main point? And that helps you decide what is the main point I'm going to make as well. So the purpose of the prompt has a lot to do with your topic and what you're going to be writing about. Ask yourself 3 questions. What is my purpose? Who is my audience? What is my perspective? So we just talked about purpose. What about audience? Who is your audience when you're writing for a state test?
The people you're writing to. The people you're writing to.
The people you're writing for? Very good. And that would probably be the people grading your test. So you don't necessarily know the people grading your test, so the way that you write about things would have to change a little bit, and we're going to be talking about that during this presentation. So knowing your audience is very important in writing, because it helps you decide what are some details I might include, what are some details I might leave out. What is my perspective? What does perspective mean? Well, perspective is a little bit of a challenging word, but it's pretty simple. It can have a couple definitions. One of them is your point of view, and another is how you view a subject. So, for instance, what is my perspective on the topic of building a new highway, for instance? You know, I could be for building a new highway, I could be against building a new highway, I might have reasons for each. So your perspective could be where you stand on a topic, what you think about a topic, how you see it. So when you look at this, when you look at a prompt, ask yourself, what is my purpose? Who is my audience? What is my perspective? Why would I go to the trouble of doing that? What do you think is the importance of all these questions?
What is the purpose of answering those 3 questions? Why is it important to do that?
So you could get a good grade on your paper. That's a very good point. So, and how would this help you get a good grade on your paper? How would this help you make your writing better? Well, by knowing... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Why do you have to do all 3 of those things? To make your paper look better when the person grades it.
Yeah, very good. So essentially, it is working toward that that same point is brought up earlier of getting a better grade. But another thing is that when you look at these questions, what is my purpose? Who is my audience? What is my perspective? You change the way you write. Because if you know your main point, if you know what you're going to be writing about, then you're able to stay on topic. If you know your audience or who's going to be reading your writing, then you're able to include details that are important to them. For instance, explaining things that they might not know about. And by asking what is my perspective, then you get your own opinion and you make sure that what you write really comes from you. So these 3 questions help make your writing better by changing the way that you write and making it better for especially state test. What is my purpose in writing this? Is my purpose to persuade, inform, explain, or entertain? So if you're writing to persuade, what kind of writing would that be?
To make people buy your product.
You could be making people buy your product. Where else have we seen examples of persuasive writing?
Make somebody do something.
To make somebody do something, yeah. Maybe you've heard some persuasive language from your parents when it comes to the advantages of going to clean your room or eat your vegetables. So we've probably all heard some kind of persuasive language or persuasive writing, whether it's in an advertisement or something we hear from other people trying to get us to do something. And in writing, when you're trying to persuade, that would be persuasive writing. If you're trying to inform or explain, that would be expository writing. So if you look at a piece of persuasive writing and you look at a piece of expository writing, then the difference might be something like this. In a persuasive writing piece, I would say, penguins are the best animal on earth. This is why. They are cute, they're very skilled, they can do many things, and they are able to survive in a really cold place. Okay, so those reasons are sort of weird, but so that would be persuasive writing. I'm trying to convince someone, hey, penguins are the best animal on earth. In expository writing, I might say something like, well, what do you think? How would it be different? What would I say? So if in persuasive writing I'm trying to convince you, hey, penguins are the best animals on earth. In expository writing, my goal is different. I'm not trying to persuade anybody, but I'm trying to inform you. I'm trying to explain to you about penguins. So not so much to persuade you. What would it sound like if I was just trying to inform you? Yeah, penguins are black and white. Very good. So instead of saying penguins are the best animals on Earth, you would say, well, penguins live in Antarctica. They don't have wings to fly with, but they often go fishing, and they use their habitat, even though it doesn't have a whole lot of food and plants and all that, then they still manage to find their food by going fishing and walking over long distances. So you might say something like that. It would be informing about penguins. What would it, so in persuasive, I would be saying, here are the reasons why penguins are awesome. In informative, I would be saying, this is some information about penguins. What about for narrative writing, when I'm trying to entertain? What is narrative writing?
It is when you put something in a story to make people laugh or make people like it.
Yeah, very good. Raise your hand if you've ever told a funny story to a friend before. Okay, I'm seeing a couple raise hands. If you've ever told a funny story to a friend before, raise your hand. Okay, I'm seeing some more raised hands. So you all then have told or used narrative language or narrative writing. Because when you tell a funny story to a friend, then you're telling a narrative, you're telling a story, you're entertaining them. So if you get a prompt on a test, which is something like, tell about a time when you felt embarrassed by something, but then managed to do something else which made you feel proud, okay, then you would be telling a story from either from your own life, or it might be asking you to make one up. So when you are asked to tell a story or tell about a time in your life, that might be narrative writing or personal narrative writing. So if you have these different purposes to persuade, to inform or explain, and entertain, then if you then again apply the penguin thing to narrative writing, what would a penguin, if you took the entertaining purpose, if you took narrative writing and applied that to the penguins, then what might that look like? So if persuasive writing was penguins are so awesome, informative writing is this is some information about penguins, what would the narrative writing be like? Well, it would be a story, right? Since the purpose is to entertain, it would be a story, so it might be fictional, you might make something up. So it would probably be something like, once upon a time there lived a penguin in Antarctica who loved to go and fish, or something like that. So your purpose there wouldn't be to inform or to persuade. So you all have pieces of paper. Why don't you go ahead and write at the top of your page, persuasive, expository, and narrative. And if you want, you can abbreviate it, because I know it's a little hard to write all that. But just write persuasive, expository, and narrative at the top of the page. And underneath that, you can write your own way of remembering it. Mine is like the penguins. You know, the penguins are so awesome for persuasive. Here's some information about penguins for expository, and once upon a time there lived a penguin for narrative. So just write down those 3 different types of writing at the top of your page. And raise your hand once you're done. Okay, anyone done? Raise your hand if you're finished. Okay, is everybody finished writing? Great. Okay, and if you need a little more time, just ask someone next to you to show you their paper, and you can write further. So again, when you look at a prompt, then think, are they trying to get me to list the reasons to do something or not do something? Are they asking me to explain or inform about something? Or are they asking me to tell a story? And by knowing what the prompt is asking you to do, you can decide how you're going to write. Because it might not be good if you had a prompt and it's asking you to tell a story, and then you went and wrote a persuasive essay. That might not be the giving you the highest grade. It might be good practice, but it might not be very good for the prompt that you're getting. So working to make sure that your writing is the kind of writing that the prompt is asking for is very important. So persuasive writing is like these, you know, the ads for fast food or the billboards for makeup that I put your advertisements. Informative would be like when your teacher is telling you about something, or you're reading a book, maybe like a nonfiction book. And of course, entertaining is when you're reading a funny story or telling a story to a friend. Now sometimes you might have more than one purpose. For example, when you write an email to a friend, you might have all three purposes. To inform your friend that your parents bought a huge trampoline, to entertain your friend with a story of how you've already bounced off the trampoline and into the yard, and to persuade your friend to come over to your house after school. So you might have more than one purpose. With a prompt, you're usually asked to do one or two of them, not all three. So look at each of the following assignments and name the author's main purpose: to explain, to persuade, or to entertain. And one of them is a little bit confusing, I've heard, but write a letter to some slimy aliens that lists the reasons why they shouldn't destroy planet Earth. So look at the clues like write a letter, list the reasons. If you were writing a letter trying to convince them, don't destroy planet Earth, what kind of writing would that be? Persuasive. I know that there's a little bit of this going on, and I see why, and this is what I've heard a lot, is that it's confusing because, well, you could be like, well, aliens don't exist, so, or at least not that we know of, so this is sort of like a little bit of narrative, but in this case, if it's something with list the reasons why, it would probably be persuasive first. And if you actually got that on a test, which is unlikely, then it might be a little bit of narrative, but it would be, in this case, since you're actually writing a letter and you're listing reasons, it would be persuasive. This one's much easier. Write instructions for building a go-kart. So you can look down at your paper and think, okay, I'm giving someone information, I'm giving them instructions. Am I trying to persuade them? Am I trying to explain something? Or am I trying to tell a story? Write instructions for building. Explain, very good. And so, anyone want to tell me what that kind of writing is called? Expository, great. Okay, so it's pretty easy. It's easy when you look at a prompt, you just think about it a little bit and you think, what are they trying to get me to do here? What is my purpose? And that way you'll find what kind of writing you need to do. When you know your purpose, then you can make each sentence you write work towards that purpose, to inform, to explain, to persuade, or to entertain. Next question you want to ask yourself: who is my audience? And when you think about this, you might kind of imagine like a theater row of chairs, but usually your audience, it might just be one person who's grading your test. It might be a couple. When you're making a report to give to your whole class, maybe you're going to stand up in the front of the class and you're going to tell about something. Who would your audience be? The class, exactly, the whole class. Your fellow students, your teacher, everyone in the class. When you write a paper as for homework, who's going to be reading it? Who's your audience? The teacher. When you write a story that you're going to print out and share with your friends, okay, that was a little obvious. Then your audience will be your friends. Okay, so what I'm saying here is that when you have different things, say an assignment or a report or a story, then you might distribute it to different people. And when you do that, then probably the way that you write certain things is a little different too. For instance, if you're writing an email to your brother or sister, or you're telling them about your mom, then you wouldn't need to say, Mom is 42 years old. She works doing this, she lives here, her favorite activities are this, and so why wouldn't you tell all that to your brother or sister?
Why would you tell your brother or sister that your mom is 42, she works as a secretary, and she enjoys hiking? They already know it.
Exactly, they already know it. And so on the other hand, when you're giving a presentation about your mom to the class, then you would need to explain some of those things. Maybe not like age, but you would need to explain what she does, her favorite activities, something like that, because the audience wouldn't know it. So if it's important for the audience to know, and they don't know it, then explain it. If it's someone who hasn't met your mom, if you're writing for a state test and all of a sudden you just bring her in and you don't give a little bit of detail, then that's something where they might look at it and be like, we need a little more explanation. The important thing to remember is that your audience might not know much about you or your life, so it's crucial to introduce each topic and give the reader a context, a way of knowing who everybody is, because it's a little bit confusing. Have you ever opened up a storybook and read something that just starts with, the boy walked in and bought a croissant? It was, and then suddenly someone appears and it's like, the woman said to him, "You better sit down now." You know, that would be confusing because you're thinking, wait a second, who's the boy? Where is he getting the croissant? Where does this woman come from? So you need to introduce everybody. Even though, let's say, if I were writing that, it might be obvious to me who everybody is, then I need to explain it so that it's clear who I'm talking about. Even if your audience does know you, when you're writing for a test, it's important to introduce each topic and explain who you're talking about. So if you know every single person who grades state tests, you would still want to explain your topic. For example, if you're mentioning your friend Annie for the first time, be sure to introduce her. Instead of just saying, it was a wonderful day. Annie rode around the corner on her BMX. We're left wondering, well, who's Annie exactly? Then you would say, it was a wonderful day in my neighborhood. Annie, my friend from down the street, rode around the corner on her BMX. So by adding where you are and who Annie is, then you make that suddenly way more clear. If you're writing for an older audience, you might want to explain what a BMX is, and also, you know, BMX, I only figured out what that meant like 2 years ago. So Annie, my friend from down the street, rode around the corner on her small BMX racing bike, because it's a term that's still, you know, not a whole lot of people might have heard. So how could we make this more clear for our audience? I live in Harrisburg with Tyler, Jesse, Nana, Snowball, and Mom. Every day I ride to Burke Hills. I sit next to Pacey and Catherine. We are learning about quarks. Mrs. Huxley says I'm a natural. Afterward, I go to Sausages. So what is not immediately clear about some of these sentences? What do we not know? Why don't we start with the first sentence? I live in Harrisburg with Tyler, Jesse, Nana, Snowball, and Mom. Very good. We don't know who the people are. We're like, well, yeah, you live here with Tyler, Jesse, Nana, Snowball, and Mom. Who exactly are these people? Are Tyler and Jesse your brothers? Is Nana your good? Or are they your roommates? Are they your friends? Are they your fellow people at the retirement community? There's a few different things. I mean, we might be able to kind of guess, but you don't want to just start off with something that's really unclear. Every day I ride to Burke Hills. So again, we're like, is Burke Hills a school? Is Burke Hills a library? Or what is Burke Hills? I sit next to Pacey and Catherine, also unclear. We're learning about quarks. Mrs. Huxley says I'm a natural. Afterward, I go over to Sasha. So there's a lot of people who were like, well, who are they exactly? And why are you there? So why don't we try to rewrite this with detail and make it more clear? So what is the first thing that we would want to do? You want to, sorry? Oh, indent. Okay. Yeah, like when I start writing my paragraph. Oops. Okay. So what would I be writing to make this? I live in Harrisburg with Tyler, Jesse, Nana, Snowball, and Mom. How would I make that more clear? What detail or word would I add? Okay, I live in Harrisburg with my sister, my brother, and my mom. Who else is mentioned here? So that takes care. I live in Harrisburg with Tyler, Jesse, Nana, Snowball, and Mom. What about Nana and Snowball? Okay, Snowball. Yeah, that's not usually a name for humans, and Nana is a way of saying grandma. So I could say, I live in Harrisburg with my grandma, my pet dog. Okay, my sister, my brother, and my mom. Okay, excellent. Every day I ride to Burke Hills. What do you think Burke Hills is? I ride to my school, Burke Hills, right? I sit next to Pacey and Catherine. Who do you think they would be if she sits next to them?
They're friends.
Okay. I sit next to Pacey and Catherine, my best friends. In class, we're learning about quarks. Who would Mrs. Huxley be? The teacher. Yep. Oh, sorry. The teacher, Mrs. Huxley, says I'm a natural. Okay. Afterwards, I go over to Sasha's. Who would Sasha be? Her babysitter, her friend, her cousin. Okay, great. Afterward, I go over to my cousin Sasha's. Great. So, this is a lot more clear. I live in Harrisburg with my grandma, my pet dog, my sister, my brother, and my mom. Every day, I ride to my school, Burke Hills. I sit next to Pacey and Catherine, my best friends. In class, we're learning about quarks. The teacher, Mrs. Huxley, says I'm a natural. Afterward, I go over to my cousin Sasha's. So here we've explained to everybody, we've explained what Burke Hills is, Pacey and Catherine, Mrs. Huxley, Sasha, and all of our family members. So it's much clearer. And again, the reason that you'd want to do this is because when you're writing for a state test, the person grading your state test won't know who all these people are, won't know what the places are, or why you're going there. So by explaining, then you make it a lot easier to read. Pre-writing. Anyone want to tell me what pre-writing is?
It's writing before you actually write.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it's called pre-writing. It's pretty easy to remember. It's sort of writing before you actually write it. Might involve your brainstorming, maybe mapping out your ideas somehow. And so an easy way to do that, especially when you're writing persuasively. So for instance, this one is trying to convince someone that computer games teach kids valuable skills. And the writer goes on to have their 3 reasons, and each one of those reasons has an example. So the main idea, computer games teach kids valuable skills. And you might be thinking kind of, well, that seems a little bit suspicious. Well, so they're like, well, I have evidence, and you have reason number 1, and reason number 2, and reason number 3. So, for instance, computer games help kids learn, encourage thinking. Games such as Age of Mythology inspire kids to learn more about history. Games such as SimCity and Myst help kids build critical thinking skills. So that's reason number 1 and the examples behind it. Another reason, games improve coordination or hand-to-eye coordination. Researchers at the University of Rochester discovered that game players have a better ability to spot things quickly. And then reason number 3, kids who play games on the computer demonstrate skills that they can use in life. For instance, typing. Many games require kids to develop typing skills. And kids who get on the computer every day to play games will be more comfortable using computers later in life. So there you have all your reasons. And this is not, by the way, an opinion which I have. It was just one I selected and then developed with reasons. So the reason that you might want to do that is because if, let's say you were asked to write persuasively about something, about an activity that helps kids learn or something, and you chose computer games, and you're like, well, this is why I chose this one, because 1, 2, 3, and you list your reasons and you have your examples. Instead of just starting writing, and you might have all these ideas, and you might get them kind of jumbled together and put them all kind of together without much organization, then by making this, you kind of see where everything is going and where everything belongs. You could also build an outline if you wanted. So an outline is pretty simple. All you have to do is just have a couple points that you're trying to make and have reasons behind them. Usually, this is an outline that I actually had to make for one of my literary analysis essays, which is not super quick, I'll tell you that, to make this a very formal outline. And the good news is you guys won't have to do that. You can make a very simple outline. It's pretty much just, this is what I think, and here are my reasons that support it. For instance, in this one about computer games, paragraph number 1 would be the introduction. That's where you state your main idea. What's your main idea?
The computer game.
Great. So what exactly is, it's about computer games. What is the main idea? You can take a look at the paragraph.
The main idea is the topic.
The main idea is the topic. So in this essay about computer games, what is this writer's main idea?
The writer's main idea is about computer games. They teach skills, kids skills.
Yeah, exactly. So in this essay, or piece of persuasive writing, then the person's main idea is computer games are educational. They teach valuable skills. So then they go and back it up with reasons. Visual skills, basic computer skills, encourage kids to think. So in this introduction, they said, here's my main idea, and here are my reasons to back it up. In paragraph number 2, they would take that reason and give their 2 examples, and that continues with their second reason, their third reason, and then they have a conclusion. And it summarizes all those main points in new language. Anyone want to tell me what summarizing is? So you're kind of wrapping it up. Yeah, in the conclusion you would be wrapping it up. When you summarize, you're taking the information and you would be kind of giving a shorter version of it. You would be restating it, but in a different way. So it would end with it might end with an image, a call to action, a suggestion, a scenario, a quote, a restatement of why the main idea is important. There's a lot of ways to end your piece of writing. In this case, it's a persuasive writing piece. But this one ends with, so next time you are about to scold your kid for wasting time on the computer playing games, take a moment to consider what kind of skills you want him or her to develop. Now, why do you think of writing a persuasive essay, it might be good to make an outline and state and have all these reasons? Why couldn't you just say, computer games are awesome, and that's what I think? Why would it be better to have all this? I'm sorry?
You know what you're writing about.
You need to know what you're writing about, exactly. And you need to show that you've thought it out. Because if you just say something like, computer games are really amazing, I think that they're amazing, I've had a really fun time playing them, then the person will read that and be like, we need reasons. We need specific reasons, we need examples, and we need organization here. You can't just say, hey, I love computer games. You can use a story from your own life maybe in the essay, but it's a good idea to actually have some reasons and to show that you've thought it out. It's kind of like building a house, you need a foundation. When you're writing a persuasive essay, then you need your reasons and your examples to help support your main idea. And this is something, and this is actually from a Tennessee state test, but it's a pretty common prompt about writing about your role model is, who your role model is, and explaining why. And the highest score responses aren't ones that are like one-liners. They're ones that have reasons, that have organization, like an introductory paragraph, and give and explain. So for instance, this person is talking about their role model being their mom, and instead of just saying my role model is my mom because I love her very much and she's my mom, then they actually go in and explain, this is why, these are a couple of reasons. So understand the prompt's purpose and answer the question being asked with your response. Think about your audience, how much do you need to explain, and come up with supporting details or reasons to support your perspective or opinion. So that's more of when you get a persuasive writing one. So an example persuasive writing prompt, like to write a letter to the slimy aliens explaining why they shouldn't destroy planet Earth. But when you get something like expository writing or even narrative writing, it's still a good idea to think about, here's what I'm going to say, here's the structure I'm going to use. Because even when you're, say, writing a story, then you want to think about, well, how long is the story going to be? What details should I include? So by planning it out, maybe mapping out your ideas, so that you're able to plan ahead and organize it better. Choosing the right words. How many of you have heard of word choice? Okay, I see a couple of raised hands. Well, word choice is a word or two words that basically describes how you go about choosing words that are best for the situation. And so why would word choice be important? They make your writing better. Very good. So let me give you an example of a piece of writing. The house was big. My cat is big. Both of my sisters like to play with the big cat. Okay, so looking at that piece of writing, and sorry, I know I went off the slide and that's not very neat, but the house was big, my cat is big, both of my sisters like to play with the big cat. What could be improved about those sentences? Big. Yeah, exactly.